As soon as my mother-in-law saw that I was resting, she started. "What are you doing? You are such a slacker. You disgust me, Tina." My mother-in-law kept the volume of her voice down so her friends couldn't hear her. But she said a lot of abusive things to me. Oh, shoot. I just sat there with my head down, waiting for the storm to pass. Then, my mother-in-law's friends came up to me with a pale face. "Oh, how dare you talk to her like that?" My name is Tina. I'm a 35-year-old housewife. I met my husband John through a friend. He had a nice smile and was kind. The word good man was perfect for him. We hit it off right away, and we started dating. We continued to date steadily for a few years, and my husband proposed to me. I was so happy to marry the man I loved. We greeted each other's parents, had a wedding and honeymoon. From then on, we lived a happy married life. However, about 2 years into our marriage, my husband decided to go on a long business trip overseas. But it had always been one of my husband's dreams to work abroad. I had been standing next to him and watching his efforts, so I was happy when the overseas business trip was decided. But at the same time, we found out that I was pregnant. My husband and I had a hard time wrapping our heads around it. It would be very disconcerting to be alone for a year while I was pregnant. I thought about going to stay with my mother, but in fact, my mother had just recently remarried, and I really don't want to disturb her. Then, my husband suggested that we stay with my mother-in-law for a year. My mother-in-law lost her husband last year, so she'd be lonely and alone. "Tina, you would be safe to have my mom around, right? She can help you take care of the housework." I thought it was a very great idea. I had a good impression of my mother-in-law at the time. So my husband decided to go talk to her about moving in together. She smiled and said yes. I was very lucky to have such a kind mother-in-law. We moved our belongings to my parents-in-law's house and started living together. A few days later, my husband left for the business trip overseas. My mother-in-law and I saw him off and went home. But as soon as we got home, she changed. "Tina, I've been watching you for the past few days, and you are completely hopeless." "What?" "It's terrible to have such a useless daughter-in-law at home. I pity John. Maybe he got fed up with you." "What? Please don't say such a thing." My mother-in-law's gentle smile is gone, and she started abusing me. "You're not worthy of John. You stole my precious son. I took such good care of him. Why did he marry someone like you?" My mother-in-law seemed to be doting on her only son, a brilliant young man. My husband graduated from a prestigious university and worked for a big company. She was always praised by the neighbors and was very proud of him. So when we got married, she might felt I had taken her son away from her. I think she actually resented me. "You fooled my son. You bitch. I really hate the fact that I have to feed you. But I'll be responsible for raising my grandchild, whose John's gene is in it." My mother-in-law was always saying things like that. I don't know if she was serious or joking. At first, I thought that she would eventually stop bullying me. But my mother-in-law was persistent. The way she was acting, she was really trying to break us up as a couple and even take my baby away from me. I couldn't talk to my husband about it because he was busy with his work overseas, which he wasn't used to doing. Besides, My mother-in-law was always praising me when she contacted my husband so that he wouldn't find out that she was picking on me. Even if I had just talked to my husband about it, he wouldn't have believed in me. And my mother-in-law's bullying continued daily. It was at a family gathering. "Tina, you are not my family. When you have finished preparing everyone's meals, go to the kitchen and eat alone." That's what she said to me. Well, I was rather grateful to be alone in the kitchen because I didn't have to look at my mother-in-law's face. However, it was getting harder and harder for me to deal with her bullying. After all, I was pregnant, and as the days went by, I began to feel sick with morning sickness. This made it hard to cook, clean the house, and such. But my mother-in-law was unrelenting. "You are such a useless person. How long are you going to take to clean?" "I'm sorry, but I'm suffering from morning sickness." "What? Don't you dare make excuses." "But I'm sure you had the same experience when you were pregnant, didn't you?" "What are you talking about? Don't put me together with an ordinary person like you. Pregnancy is not a disease." My mother-in-law never cared about my physical condition and continued to abuse me. And not only did she abuse me, but she also insulted my mother. "Your mother's, I wonder if you inherited your mother's stench." "What do you mean?" "Because you don't have a father. Didn't your father run away from your mother? Because she's a damn person like you." This is terrible. How could she say such a heartless thing? My father died of illness when I was 5 years old. My mother raised me by herself. "Oh, I see. So you must have been very poor. No wonder you have no class. You're even more out of place with John. I wonder why he married such a disappointing woman like you." My mother-in-law's attitude made me emotionally upset. "That's enough! It's me you don't like, not my mother. My mother worked so hard to support me. She recently remarried and is very happy with her life. Don't insult my mother. You're still a savage woman. You're the one who made her look like a fool. If you want to hate me, hate your own incompetence." I had reached my limit. It's really painful to be under stress every day as a pregnant woman. Why does my mother-in-law insult me so much? It's hard to believe that we are the same human being. No matter how much I talk back and fight with her, my mother-in-law never learns her lesson and orders me to do this and that. I once got so mad that I stayed in my room instead of doing my chores. But then, she blocked the doorway so that I couldn't go to the bathroom. When I desperately shouted at her to open the door, she just laughed at me. "If you want me to open the door, you must apologize to me with sincerity. You are a million years too young to disobey me. You are my slave and my housekeeper, so you will always listen to me." I had no choice but to apologize to my mother-in-law in desperation. When she finally opened the door for me, I was on the verge of leaking. It was so painful. I was about to be traumatized for the rest of my life. I was breaking out in a cold sweat and rushing to the bathroom. My mother-in-law laughed out loud at me as I hurriedly went to the bathroom, sweating. It would have been too dangerous to take her seriously. I thought so, and decided to endure my mother-in-law's abuse and be obediently. Then one day, a little later, my mother-in-law told me that some of her friends were coming over. I have some important guests coming over today, and among them is the wife of the president of the Future Incorporation. I'm sure she'll be offended if she talks to a poor woman like you. So, you must not interrupt me at all. My mother-in-law is still abusing me, but my husband will be back in a few months. Until then, it's safer to stay quiet and do as my mother-in-law says. Okay, what should I do? Well, in the meantime, I'd appreciate if you could clean the house thoroughly. And of course, make sure to prepare tea and sweets. My mother-in-law looked so proud of herself when she said that. I wonder how much more she needs to abuse me to make herself feel better. I rushed to the sweets boutique to buy some luxury sweets that my mother-in-law had recommended. When I returned home, I prepared a fancy plate and made the tea perfectly ready. A little while later, my mother-in-law's friends arrived. My mother-in-law greeted them with a big smile on her face. But the smile was not the kind she would give to someone she knew well. It was more like a strange smile. She must have felt that she would benefit from being friends with these people. I wondered if I could really call them friends. But since it was my mother-in-law, I didn't pay much attention to it and went about my business. Tina, can you hurry up and prepare some tea? Yes, ma'am. In a second. I hurriedly served tea and sweets to my mother-in-law's friends. I don't know who they are, since I'm meeting them for the first time. I treated them politely, so as not to be rude. Oh, thank you. One of my mother-in-law's friends thanked me. I see you're pregnant. You must be looking forward to having a baby soon. Yes, she's kicking my belly now. I'm hoping to see her soon too. I'm sure you are going to have a lovely, healthy baby. I thought they were kind, elegant people, kind of nice. But soon I felt a look from my mother-in-law, and I had to leave right then and there. I'm sure she's scolding at me for being rude and unnecessary. I bowed them and left quickly. After that, I did as my mother-in-law told me and cleaned the house. It's not easy when you're pregnant. So I decided to take a break and went to the kitchen to have some tea and catch my breath. Just then, I bumped into my mother-in-law, who came to take down the plates. As soon as my mother-in-law saw that I was resting, she started. What are you doing? You are such a slacker. You disgust me, Tina. My mother-in-law kept the volume of her voice down so her friends couldn't hear her. But she said a lot of abusive things to me. Oh, shoot. I just sat there with my head down, waiting for the storm to pass. Then, a friend of my mother-in-law's came up to me with a pale face. How dare you talk to her like that? My mother-in-law turned her head toward the voice and instantly started panicking. What? What's the matter? Mrs. Green? It seemed that this woman is the wife of the Future Incorporation's president. I was just wondering if I could use your restroom. And then I saw you hurling abusive language at her. I'm terribly sorry. She's my daughter-in-law, and I've been trying to teach her a few things. The president's wife's eye widened in surprise. You don't know who this person is, do you? She is the daughter of the president of a company called IBX. What? The IBX? Yes. Her mother's company is an important business partner of my husband's company. Does that mean that the company my son works for is an important business partner? That's right. But I don't care if your son works there or not. If my husband's company goes under because of you, how will you take the blame? I couldn't hide my surprise at the unexpected connection. It seems that Mrs. Green had recently become friends with my mother through her husband. When she visited my parents' house, my mother showed her pictures of me and she knew my face. She also noticed that my mother-in-law had called me by my name and recognized me as the same person. But I was gone before she could talk to me back then, so she thought she would talk to me later. Of course, my mother-in-law didn't know about it, and she let Mrs. Green see her bullying me. Oh no, Mrs. Green, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My mother-in-law apologized to her in a panic. But Mrs. Green did not forgive her. If you want to apologize, apologize to her. You said terrible things to hurt her. Right, Tina? And what kind of nerve does it take to put a pregnant woman through all this hard work? Apologize to her right now for the terrible things you've done. When Mrs. Green said this, my mother-in-law turned to me with shifty eyes and said her sorry. I'm not in the mood to have tea anymore. So, I'd like to leave now. Mrs. Green said and started to get ready to leave. The other friends were surprised to see what was going on. But when she said she was leaving, they all got ready and left together. Oh no, I'm screwed. My mother-in-law was slumped down on the spot. After that, my mother-in-law changed her attitude in a sickening flip-flop way. Please, tell your mother that nothing happened. I had no idea you were the daughter of such a well-known family. I was so disgusted with her. That's enough. I've been treated so badly by you. I can't pretend that it didn't happen. And you've been making fun of my mother for a long time. You had no interest in what she was doing for a living. You didn't even remember why she became a single mother. I will never forgive you. Wait, Tina. If you don't forgive me, my son's future will be ruined. What are you talking about? It was only you who caused me pain. My husband did nothing wrong. In fact, I have already told my mother what happened. She was furious that her daughter was treated that way. Also, when Mrs. Green found out that my mother was angry, she decided that she would never have anything to do with you. Her friends also seemed to think the same way. In addition, I recorded our conversation when you were abusing me. Huh? Not all of it, but you were abusive to me every day. So I gathered a lot of evidence. I also got a medical certificate recently, so I can sue you for it. Oh no, this is not happening. And I've already told my husband everything. He said I can sue you and he will sever ties with you. No, please tell me you were just saying that. You've done horrible things as a human being. It's only natural for you to be abandoned by everyone. I don't want to be in a place like this anymore, so I'm leaving. My mother gave me a room at my parents' house. My mother-in-law had already let go and didn't seem to hear me at the end of the conversation. She had offended people she shouldn't have offended. After that, my mother-in-law seemed to be spending her days alone and lonely. I, on the other hand, went back to my parents' house and gave birth to a healthy baby girl. And my husband returned home safely after his business trip. He was overjoyed to see me and the baby.
I'm so sorry for all the pain you've been going through because of my mom.
It's my fault for not talking to you about it, so don't apologize.
From now on, I will always be by your side, Tina. I'll protect you and this beautiful baby girl, my precious family.
Yeah, the three of us will stay together, and we'll be happy together. My husband and I hugged each other. Then we looked at our sweet daughter, who was sleeping peacefully with a big smile on her face. Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.